Hello, 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 and welcome back to an all-new episode here on the Desensitized channel. As always, I am joined by Dan Cast. How you doing, Dan Cast?
Good. It's a nice chilly morning here in Orlando, and it's pretty early, so I'm still waking up. So, pardon me if I'm a little bit slow, but we'll get through it.
Hey, that's okay. Top of the morning to you. That's right. It is very cold in Florida right now. We just had it snow in Florida's capital in Tallahassee just this past couple days. Like 7 and 9 inches of snow, depending on where you are. Kind of crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I've been cold. I've been having a tough time with it, but we'll try to heat things up here today. We're talking about a fun one. We are diving into Bleach Thousand Year Blood War arc. I have finally finished it. You've been begging me to watch it for like the better
So
part of a
long,
year now. Yeah.
so long.
So I have just now caught up and finished Core 3. So we'll be talking about the series as a whole, but mainly talking about the most recent part that just came out. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Uh, Honestly, I was blown away by Bleach TYBW. I was very hesitant to watch it. I felt like it would just be more Bleach, and I've already gotten a ton of Bleach in my life. But this is some of the most unique storytelling that I've ever seen Bleach tell. Bleach has always been known for its fights and its power system, and how unique and fun and engaging it is. But this feels like it took everything to a whole other level. I thought it was a great ride all the way throughout. What's your overall feelings about it?
I mean, it's so hard. Like getting people to watch Bleach who have never seen it is very hard. Just because you look back at like maybe One Piece or Naruto, and for some reason, Bleach looks a lot more dated when you watch the first seasons. So I've got to be like, hey, the first seasons are gonna look old, but then it'll quickly ramp up its quality. But yeah, I don't know. It's so nice seeing Bleach again because it's like one of my favorites of all time.
You making me think of something already. Where you talked about how it looks dated, even compared to its competition that was coming out at the same time. It's because when Bleach was airing in 2006, it seemed like a 2006 show, which was awesome at the time. You know, down to their wardrobe, the cell phones that they have, like everything felt accurate for the time that it was releasing. But obviously, the world stays within that time zone, and we move forward. And so, yeah, I think looking back at Bleach and trying to get people into it, it does feel more dated because not only is it limited by the animation of the time, but it's like committed to representing that time and space in the world.
Yeah, but like I don't know. Like I said, it's so hard to like. I have to convince them to just get through the first couple episodes. Of course, skip the filler because the big three were notorious for a shit ton of filler back in the day. That was like the meta. Um, but it's just such a good show at the end of the day. And then I show them clips of like Thousand Year Blood Work, and I'm like, look what you can get at the end of this. It's like a
Mhm.
dessert.
Yeah, watching this series makes me think of JJK. I don't. I have to imagine people are making that comparison, but I haven't seen it really made outside of like JJK's first season. I remember like a lot of people were talking about like stylistically it reminds them of Bleach. But I think there's so many similarities, especially with JJK season two and how like how many fights there were and the artistic lens that was used to communicate these fights. A lot of the fights that happened in this season of Bleach made me feel like, some of them were just amazing fights that were just feast for your eyes. And some of them felt like they were using the concept of an anime fight as a vehicle to artistically tell an emotional story. And that ping pong bouncing between those two ideals is what sets the season apart, and I think is what elevates JJK season two to being some of the best anime I've ever seen. That on top of like the convoluted Bankais and different powers that are happening here between the Quincy's and the Soul Reapers. Just it reminds me of a domain expansion. The way, yeah, I think the similarities are always there when it comes to Bankai, but the way that these Soul Reapers are finding new extensions of their Bankai, I think that the power system is more closely representing what a domain expansion is. And not to say that as a bad thing, I think it's a great thing, but it's interesting that comparison.
Honestly, I never thought to even compare the two, but now that you say that, I definitely see it. Um, Something that like I just kind of thought about as I was kind of like replaying the whole parts in my head is it's funny that like in these three parts, you don't really see Ichigo much, like the main character. You're almost entirely just watching this through the lens of other characters, which is pretty interesting. And I think that it's probably because I'm sure the end, I haven't read it, so I'm sure the end is gonna have like a big Ichigo moment. But like it's cool seeing all these other characters get the spotlight for so long.
Yeah, that's very true, especially in the first two parts. I mean, one critique I have is like some of the narrative beats are a little ridiculous. I mean, we spend all this time for Ichigo to go up into the higher soul society, like the soul capital or whatever. Then like for multiple episodes, he's traveling all the way down. He arrives, he has one fight with a girl, and she doesn't even die. And then he's like, I gotta go right back up. And then, like, for a few more episodes, he's traveling back up to get back into that same place. It's like insane how much time we're using for Ichigo just to travel back and forth. So that way other people can experience their fights. That being said, in the third core, he definitely gets a lot more spotlight, and we're seeing him go to head with Uryu a lot more. But it's so true that Bleach has so many characters that it cares about, and this series definitely feels like they're checking every box for every character that you, the fandom, do like and enjoy, and are like putting a neat little bow on their progress as characters. We're seeing these full power developments and emotional arcs actually come full circle and all like hit a button here in this season.
Yeah, and like um finally it feels like we're seeing, captains that we didn't get a chance to see their Bankai, or like,
Hmm.
in Kenpachi's, you finally get to see him like awaken his sword. And who knows if we'll see him do a Bankai, but we finally get to see what like his sword kind of looks like, and just how strong he can be.
They've been
It's
treating Kenpachi so specifically this season, like
dude,
they're really building him up as like almost like an Ichigo level threat. Like
yeah,
he's
like,
really feeling on par.
which is crazy because like sometimes he's like literally, you're like, I don't even know how anyone can beat him, and then he just gets like owned randomly, like so quickly. Like
Hmm.
I didn't really understand it, but I guess like his whole thing is like the more he gets like messed up, the stronger he gets to a degree. That's probably why when he fought I can't remember the other captain, but the previous Kenpachi, her whole thing was she wanted to become like a healer so she can like continuously fight someone and have like a good fight, and that's why she was fine with just dying, because she finally got what she was waiting for.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was like there's been like 10 of these battles that I thought were like very emotionally impactful and compelling. That was like the first one watching it. I think it was either at the beginning of core 2 or the end of core 1 where I was like, "Oh, this is like this series is delivering on like compelling storylines." That was the first one that tipped it in that direction.
Well, also that I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, to my memory, that's like the first time we ever see her fight in general.
As far as I've ever seen,
And then
you're more of a Bleach guy than I am. I have no memory of like seeing her actually like battle like that.
yeah, and then like her big reveal is like low key she's like a killer. Like she's a stone
Yeah,
cold killer. And you're like, what
never
the
would have thought
fuck?
it.
Yeah, like they were trying their best to to make you think the opposite. And her Bankai and then the violin was just so
Hmm.
good. That gave me goosebumps when I saw it.
For sure. Are there any other fights that stick out in your mind that you want to highlight? I have a couple, but are there any that come to mind for you?
Yeah, so I wish it was longer, but I love the Basby fight. Was awesome. The animation was really good. Um, and it,
That's when he's fighting Jugrim, right?
yeah,
The number
yeah,
two to Yuabaha.
yeah.
Okay. On the Basby Jugrim fight, I mean, that backstory was so interesting. It could have been like I was ready to watch that spinoff. Like I want to watch this anime where these two kids develop a relationship in the woods and train each other, and then that twist happens where Yuhabaha picks him and crushes Basby's heart. Like I would watch a whole story that was just following those two characters. I was fully compelled by it.
Yeah. It sucks it was so quick, but I guess they're really showing like the extent at which like he was so much stronger, even though like
Hmm.
Basby from the beginning was like, oh, I'm a prodigy, and like you follow me, we'll get you there. And he was even thinking of like leaving him behind at a point because he's like, can he even keep
Hmm.
up? Another great fight, of course, is like the first captain versus Yu Habaka. Actually
Hmm.
seeing him finally, like the extent of his power, like everyone always talks like his power could destroy the whole Serite and stuff like that, just like alone. And then you finally get to see like how the extent of his power and
Oh yeah,
just how sick he is.
yeah. That flame Bankai that has multiple stages to it. That was insane. That was insane. I mean, I was my jaw was dropped watching that. And
Yeah, I mean, just like when he initially did the Bankai and then like the flame just like absorbs into the sword, and then you just get that scene where it's just all lit and everyone's like, it changes the whole like scene. Um,
Mhm.
and then
And how everyone on the battlefield is is noticing the spiritual pressure and it's
yeah,
affecting every single
it's
person.
like I hope he wraps this up quick or he's gonna destroy the whole like. There's also like one scene. I don't know if I saw it correctly, but I'm pretty sure at one point like when they're fighting, um, like either like wood or something's flying at the first captain's face. He just goes, "Oh!" and it like shoots back outwards. Like I was like,
Yeah, that's a flex.
that was so sick. He just like shouts and it like flies away from him. Obviously, getting to see the Bankai of I forget his name.
There's like 50 characters this
I know
season,
it's
so
so
I
hard, and
you're forgiven.
their names are tough. But the new first captain is
Yes,
pretty sick.
so that's Chusui Kiyoraku,
Yeah, like that's a tough
something like
name.
that.
Yeah, finally seeing his Bankai was cool. Um, another situation where he kind of changes the whole scenery of the area, like you just see the
Hmm.
scale of it. Um,
That was a domain expansion, sure.
pretty much,
Where
yeah.
his Bankai could have been called Squid Game. That what a cool one.
uh, honestly, the one thing I don't like about that fight was his opponent, whatever his name was. I thought he was kind of lame. I hated his new forms, like his three forms. I didn't think they were cool.
So
Uh,
he was like the sniper, right?
yeah,
Yeah, like the black guy sniper. Okay,
like
I
he
hear you.
was cool how he was, and then when he started transforming, I'm like, these forms look kind of stupid. Like
Yeah,
they don't
yeah.
really look like practical in a fighting sense or anything, but um, it was still a really cool fight. Obviously, kind of learning more of his backstory, and like obviously his lieutenant gets a moment to shine as well with her sword, because I don't think you really ever see her fight either. um
That moment was amazing. That is like a top 3 moment of the series for me. Uh, j and not even like the backstory was cool. It was as compelling as anything else, but just the final, image of them standing there together when she does the sword slash, and you're just getting a firework display. I want that to be my screensaver. I went back 10 seconds multiple times just to watch it in awe. I'm a sucker for fireworks in general, and just seeing that, I thought it was the most beautiful moment, like visually most beautiful moment of the season.
yeah, and there's always like a weird like, I don't want to say like they're like dating, but it's like I don't know, they have a weird relationship, so it was nice to like see them like together doing that. I don't really know the extent of it, but
Or
uh
a bit of a tension between the two of them.
what about you? Are there any, I know you mentioned you know the intelligence captain, whatever his name is, the one that does.
Yeah, so well, that's one thing I wanted to highlight in general is this throughout the seasons, throughout all of Thousand Year Blood War arc, Kisuke, our smarty guy who lives in the regular world, and then Captain Kurotsuchi, the one who looks like a Orochimaru, that freak scientist. The playful banter between them, like one upping each other with their like technological advances, was so interesting. I had a lot of fun just with them continuing to be like, I've got this solution. Well, actually, I've already figured out this, and
Yeah,
just upping the stakes there. But then later on, when we get to the most recent season, Kurotsuchi is traveling with Kenpachi, on the main stage, and you basically see him 1v1 the is it the left hand or the other hand of the
yeah,
Soul King.
yeah,
Uh, I absolutely loved it. I've never This character has never been one that I enjoyed, particularly in Bleach. I always thought he was creepy. Maybe I was a little young when I was watching it, but like I never cared about this character. And he instantly became the coolest character around. I thought that the way he had to answer for everything, his relationship with essentially his child, the soul that he manufactured himself and then gave the nickname to, who ends up self-sacrificing herself later. It was all compelling as hell. And this character, he actually became my favorite character. I'm shocked that he can
Really.
go from zero to like the top.
And it was nice to see like how the whole like show you see him treat like the the his lieutenant like shit. Like
Hmm.
just like pretty much like, oh, here, jump in the way of this, eat this whole shot for me, whatever. And then at the end you see like he actually starts caring for it, and maybe it's not in like the way that a traditional person would, but it was nice to see that like he actually cares for this, like it's his kid. Obviously if it dies he can just make another one, but I guess he kept the brain of it. So
Yeah, so we'll see what that leads to. That's true.
um
Yeah, it was interesting seeing her perspective because that's giving you like the emotional stakes because she sees herself as this experiment. She's like asking, why is she calling me this nickname instead of memory number seven or whatever it was? Seeing her perspective in that moment added so much like pathos to that dynamic, whereas he's always just referred to her as like, the experiment.
yeah. Also, Yoroichi, of course. She got a little bit of a moment at the end. Um, that like it was a short sequence, but it was sick. When I forgot what the name of her move was, but when she did it and like that music cued in, I saw it like so many different times. Like that song was so cool, and then also just like
Mm,
her ability. You finally get to see her like fight. Um, I've seen some panels of the next part, so I'm excited for that.
okay. Yeah,
And
I'm hoping to see more out of her because honestly, I was a little underwhelmed with Yorichi this season. I feel like she has these little moments where she jabs in and stuff, but like we never linger on her too much, and she hasn't like gotten like a fully fledged like 1v1 battle.
yeah, we've never like seen the full extent of her power. Um, but we'll definitely see more of her and in more ways than one. Um,
Of course, it
uh,
wouldn't be Yorichi without it,
yeah, man, she was like my first like anime crush for sure.
dude.
I was
She was
like,
one
dude,
of my first for
yeah, I
sure
was
as
like,
well.
she is so fine when I was a little kid.
Dude, slight tangent. I remember back in the Adult Swim Toonami era, I would always stay up to watch Bleach. I remember my mom came out and it was like, early Bleach. I think Ichigo is like training with her before he goes to get Rukia or something like that. And she is just wearing nothing in the hot tub with Ichigo. They're at like a hot spring. And my mom was like, "What are you watching?" It's like one of the first times she like questioned me about anime. I had nothing. I had no defense. I can't explain this. There's
Well,
nothing. I'm just 10 years old.
and she was like, "Are you sure you don't want to get another peek? Like, who knows when you'll see another one again?" And I was like,
No, it was flirtatious. It,
"Yeah."
it was intense.
I was like, "Yeah, I remember that. I remember that scene very specifically because it like it changed the the path of my life." I was like, "Huh?" But yeah, no, I'm excited to see more of her, and honestly, I want to see more of Aizen.
Yes,
Aizen,
he's the elephant in the room, isn't he?
yeah, and Aizen is like maybe one of the coolest villains in anime. Like, just how smart he is, the biggest like change up, like he had everyone the fool when when it was revealed that he was like behind everything. That was a crazy
Hmm.
reveal. Just how strong he is, like it's ridiculous how strong he is. Like in Thousand Year Blood War, his one moment, he's not even like a fraction of his power, and like
Yeah.
sitting in a chair, he like just auraed everything away. Like it was so sick. Um,
Yeah, no, they're doing a lot to remind the audience that like he is a massive, powerful entity. And I'm sure he will become much more relevant later because they've given us a lot of screen time with him, but he hasn't been that relevant yet. So I'm
yeah,
sure they're leading up to something.
there's just no shot they freed him just so he can just be in a chair and just
Hmm,
like get rid of the monsters and like, all right, you need to go back in there, bro. Like,
hmm.
surely he's gonna be like part of the fight with you, Habaha.
Yeah, he's got to be. I didn't see that coming. I should have because they checked in with him at the beginning of the season. But when the new first captain Shusui was like, there's only one place to turn to now. I did not expect him to pull up on Aizen. That was
So
sick.
sick. So sick. I'm so excited to see him.
One thing I'm enjoying is Renji is a badass. Renji, I loved Renji when I was first watching Bleach when I was like 8, 10 years old. I just liked him as a character, but he was always like the punching bag. Like,
Yeah.
they always made him like a loser and stuff like that, always making fun of him. And of course, he would get outshined by other cool characters that we have. But Renji is like finally standing on like firm ground and being just as much of a badass as everybody else around. And I'm really appreciating it.
No, he's finally like I never cared for Renji. And finally I'm like, okay, Renji's kind of cool now. It's fine.
He's
Uh
sick. The new extension of his Zanpakuto and everything is pretty sick, I gotta say.
yeah, no, it's sick. Honestly, and Rukia's fucking awesome. I can't wait. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if she'll master it by the time the season ends, but I would love to see her like fully control that. It's such a sick ability. The way she looks after is really cool.
So cool. Like an ice queen. Like it's so sick. Uh I'm surprised that Rukia is never more centered to the plot. Given where we start with Rukia as a character, I'm surprised she isn't like standing next to Ichigo on the battlefield and stuff. I do her one fight was awesome, like showing the display of her power. But honestly, they underuse Rukia. Like I'm much more interested in so many other characters. I wouldn't even have brought up Rukia if you didn't just bring her up. Like that's how like much of an afterthought she is when I think about Bleach and especially the start of it, she's kind of like a core character, but she doesn't really feel like it nowadays.
Yeah, I guess like thinking into like really like what role does her power have in like the bigger fight? I guess like realistically, she's not that strong. Um, Prior to her Bankai, and
Hmm.
like what's she gonna do against you, Habaha? Just shoot one big blast, and then she's like
Yeah.
has to stand still, frozen for fucking like 10 minutes.
Just
Uh,
kind of a one trick, huh?
yeah. Well, until she masters it. Once she masters, it, she'll be OP. But I'm excited to see the fight with that one Viking Quincy and all the other
Mm,
captains.
yeah.
I heard
It's just a
it's
giant now.
yeah, I heard it's pretty sick. You get some cool
Okay.
moments. I'm not a big fan of like a lot of the Quincy's designs and some of their powers. Like I feel like they could have made them look cooler. Um, I don't know. Like I don't even get why he's a Viking. I don't get why there was a WWE wrestler.
Yeah,
Like,
it's very arbitrary, right? They're just like, yeah, I don't know. They're really fast and loose with the Quincy's overall.
yeah,
That being said, he's fun. Every time he fights, he's like, "I commend you for getting this far." Like he says that every single time, and then fucks him up. He's definitely fun. Do you have a favorite Quincy of like the head like six Quincy's that have been around? Is there one that is your favorite?
mm, do you have one while I think?
Yes. I love his name is he's got a weird name, but the first part of it is Askin, and then there's like a V and there's some other stuff to it. But he has the fatal dose ability, and he talks about how
Uh,
everything's fatal. Uh, his power set is interesting. It's honestly the least visually compelling power set of all the Quincy's. He just can manipulate whatever the dosages of anything is around you that is lethal. That could be blood, spiritual power, whatever. And it can affect the enemy and himself. But just as a character, he is so funny. He like does not want to be a part of these fights. He's like, "You're telling me I have to go get up against Kurosaki? Ah, damn it!" Like he is like so playful and just is like here for the fight and just wants to get through it and go home. Essentially, uh, he's just been the funniest one to keep reappearing in all these fights. Everyone else, I roll my eyes, but at least with him, we're getting like interesting and like funny commentary.
yeah, and his whole thing is like he's just like running half the time. Like he's
He
just
is. He's constantly just running away.
for me, it's probably the same. The Quincy, I really enjoy him a lot. Like I said, I don't really like too much of the designs of a lot of them.
Hmm.
Um, they're kind of goofy, but he's definitely like the most interesting to me. The rest of them seem kind of like one dimensional. Like I feel like they don't have as much going for them.
How do you feel about how Thousand Year Blood War arc handles Uryu overall? He was the main villain for a couple seasons. Now we got to the end. We finally see him turn back to the good side. How do you think? How do you feel about how they handle his character?
I feel like they did it pretty well. There's only so much you can do. Like obvious, I don't know. From the very beginning, I felt like he was doing some undercover shit because that's just his character. Like
Hmm.
he seems the type to like to be very rational and like I don't know what Yuhabaha's doing doesn't seem like it's very like seems like he's destroying both worlds. So
Yeah,
I can't see like first of all, I don't even understand like what's the point because like what do you have left to rule at that point?
just scorched earth,
Yeah,
revenge.
unless you make your own like rum, I don't really know. But anyways, like I don't know, they were dropping like subtle hints like showing that like maybe it's not like maybe he's not actually committed to this, but like finally when they revealed it, I was like, okay, good. That makes sense. Kind of sucks he didn't get more of like a moment where like he gets to do something with all the work he did. It just kind of gets
Mm.
revealed prematurely, I guess.
Yeah, it's like okay, you've been a undercover agent this whole time, but like you just did it to get to this point. It's not like you were like, I need to be at this point in time. I need to be here at this time in order to help you guys fully, and so that's why I've been doing it all this time. He just like he just gave up the facade. He's just like,
Well,
okay, I'm with
yeah,
you guys.
I guess to be fair, Ichigo kind of like ruined it.
Sure,
He like
that's true.
pulled up and he's like, "Hey, you need to prove you're with us by killing him." And then you're like, "Oh shit, like I can't really do that." Uh,
It sure seemed like he was trying to kill him before.
yeah, true. But I think he gave him like a non-lethal hit, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, in Bleach, anyone can have a hole in any part of their body and be
Dude.
just fine.
So especially because like when they have like Orihime, her whole
Yeah.
ability is like it's not healing, it's like almost reversing time. So it's like a
Dude, I am
broken
so
healing
tired of
ability.
Orihime. She's a
I
plot device. That's all she is.
well, I I get her more than Chad.
Dude, Chad is just hanging out.
He does
Chad
nothing.
needs to go get a job, dude. He's not helping. He's really not that helpful. Like, we have other guys that can give a good punch, you know what I mean? Like you do not need to be here, Chad. It's insane.
He had also he did that whole training arc as well, but I feel like I haven't seen any like he needs to like screw the arms. He needs to turn like the full devil. Like
True.
his arms are like the left arm of the devil or whatever. Like he needs to just turn into a full devil or something to like make him be strong. Like at this point his power is like it it was good in the Hueco Mundo arc when they were fighting all the espadas and then like it
Mhm.
just immediately like everyone else was climbing up and he just like stayed.
They cannot make Chad and Orihime something that I'm interested in for the last like decade and a half. Like I do not care about those characters anymore.
Yeah, no, Orihime played her part for sure. Chad was kind of always there. They kind of showed him how like he was Loki always there for Ichigo or whatever back in the day, blah blah blah. But like at this
Sure.
point, like they haven't really dedicated enough time to him for me to care.
Yeah, I
Like
do like overall though, I love how much they've upgraded Uryu's character. Like he actually can fight on the same tier as Ichigo right now, which is like awesome. It's crazy that he's this powerful.
I
And
get,
visually I'm enjoying like how he fights a lot.
I guess that's kind of a big thing about him going undercover is Yuhabaha definitely gave him access to a lot more power.
Sure.
Um, Granted, he was also set to be like the the successor to him
Hmm.
for some reason. I would love to know why Yuhabaha chose him. He didn't
I,
really.
I think it's just because like Uryu is the furthest along the lineage of Yuabaha, so he's like the last remaining successor, I think is the logic.
Maybe. Yeah, because he didn't really explain it too much why he chose him.
Not really, no.
I'm sure they will get into that at some point. It's funny. It's kind of separate to this to a degree. I actually saw a panel the other day where Ichigo's talking to his sword for the first time, Zangetsu,
Mm,
and Zangetsu tries to tell him his name, like his actual name, and it's like blotted out by ink,
mm.
which like kind of draws parallels to like the head captain of Squad Zero, how he like
Yes.
canceled out his name. So I
Yeah.
thought that was like a really cool point where like literally all the way back to the very beginning of the series, they like,
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Huh. That's insane, actually. No, the way that they tie in Yuabaha to like Ichigo's sword and his lineage, that like that does a lot for this whole arc not feeling out of place, like or feel like it came out of nowhere. Obviously, they've been implied. The Quincy Soul Reaper tension has been implied throughout the series, but tying it back directly into Ichigo's fate and making it feel like, oh, this was always a part of Ichigo's character, they pulled it off for me. Like I was totally sold. I was like, oh wow, this really seems like it was intended all along.
Yeah, no, there like so many people have been going back and like finding little moments in the series or the manga where like they hint at this and you're like, damn, he's really been planning this from the beginning.
Oh wow, I gotta look into those. I gotta find that. I haven't seen those at all. Tai Tai Kubo, not
Yeah.
bad.
And,
Yeah,
yeah, do you have anything
I've
else?
got nothing else.
Okay.
Whoa, I got
Hey.
nothing else. How about you?
Nah, that's pretty much it. I feel like we covered a lot of it. Um
Yeah,
Overall, amazing series. Excited for the last part. I feel like that's going to be the best one yet for sure.
yeah. Thank you for convincing me to watch this. It was a lot of fun hopping on the Bleach wave one more time, and I'm excited for the next part whenever that does come out.
Yep, sounds good. Alrighty.
All right. Well, for the camera, real quick, let me hear your Bankai though.
Hell no.
Bankai. Okay. All right. Peace
Bunkai.
out. That's another episode. Deuces.
Bye.